All right, a happy Wednesday. 7:40 Pacific time out here in Los Angeles. Hopefully everyone is doing great. We haven't done a video since the AD Luka trade, so I figured we would do a little bit of a kind of a whip around video on. I tried to wait until the end of Wednesday to do this based on the Butler, waiting on Butler to be traded. So let's go. Let's do a little bit of a whip around. We'll start with some of the trades that happened this morning, and then we'll end it with Butler and everything like that. All right. First one was the Chris Middleton trade, and actually, Shams just tweeted there was kind of a part two to this. Chris Middleton, Kyle Kuzma, AJ Johnson trade. The trade brought Milwaukee below the second apron. That was a priority. Once you drop below the second apron, you're allowed to trade your 2030 second first in the offseason. If they were over the second apron, that would have become frozen. They are now below the second apron. As a result, they were allowed to send cash in a trade to New York for Jericho Sims, who's on an expiring contract. DeLon Wright is going to New York. Both guys are at a $2.1 million contract. The big names, of course, are Chris Middleton and Kyle Kuzma. Middleton's at $31 million, $34 million player option next year. AJ Johnson, who Milwaukee drafted, 20-year-old rookie. That was a big part as far as what Washington wanted as far as the deal. The trade doesn't happen if AJ Johnson's not part of it. And Milwaukee gets a second back in 2025 in June. Most favorable: Phoenix, Detroit, and Golden State. I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm going to explain this notes part at the end, because this is going to be available to everyone. All these trades that we're doing and how it impacts the CBA and everything like that. Kuzma had a $7.5 million trade bonus. He reduced it down to $3 million. That allowed Milwaukee to stay below the second apron. There's swap rights in 2028. Swap rights are kind of contingent as far as what happens with Portland. Portland owes Chicago a pick. If the pick is not conveyed, then the swap rights are kind of minimized here. If the pick is conveyed, certainly... if the pick is not conveyed, it benefits the Wizards here as far as with the swap rights and everything like that. So we'll keep an eye on when we get the memo from the NBA. But there is a swap in 2028. All in all, well, my good friend Kevin Pelton, I love KP's grades, was not positive on that trade from Milwaukee standpoint. I get it. Kuzma has not shot the ball extremely well this year, but they are big. 6'9", Giannis, 6'11", 7 foot really. Brook, big front court. We'll see what else they can do. I think they're pretty much content. As I said, they get Jericho Sims in the deal. We will see what happens with Middleton in Washington. He's got that player option next year, $34 million. I don't see him as a buyout guy, just because it's a big number for next year for him. A couple other ones. Philadelphia traded KJ Martin in 2 seconds to Detroit. That gets Philadelphia under the luxury tax. They gave up a 2027 Milwaukee second and the 2031 Dallas second. We had talked about Philadelphia on in the trade guide, basically kind of trimming around the edges type deals. What this has done for Philadelphia, besides getting under the luxury tax, when you move off KJ Martin, whose contract for next year is getting non-guaranteed, and you traded Caleb Martin yesterday, it is now giving you some flexibility next in the offseason to sign Gershon Yabusele. You will, I don't want to say you'll have the full $14 million non-tax mid-level exception, but you will have a good chunk of it to re-sign. If this roster had stayed as is, the most that you could have signed Yabusele for is non-bird rights, which is $2.9 million. So a little bit about getting under the luxury tax now, and a little bit about creating savings for this upcoming offseason. Then we've got, we wrote about this one, the Jaden Springer trade. We thought circle Boston as far as trying to get off the Springer money. $4 million non-expiring contract. Boston saves roughly $15 million. He goes into Houston's non-tax mid-level exception. That is a new rule. You can use it at one of your signing exceptions to acquire a player in a trade. Houston gets a 2032nd from Boston. Whenever you make a trade, something always has to go out. So in this case, Boston is trading Springer and a 2032nd. Houston is sending back a top 55 protected in 2031. Probably Boston will never get it, but something tangible has to come back. Whether cash considerations, $110,000, the rights to a player, a contract, something always has to come back. You just can't make a trade and nothing comes your way. This was probably one of the more under the radar trades. New Orleans traded Cash, their 2031 second, and Daniel Tice to Oklahoma City. I said on TV last week, 100% guarantee that New Orleans will make a trade. Why? Because this gets them under the luxury tax. This was important for New Orleans. When you're in the lottery, you are not paying the luxury tax. Tice is on an expiring $2.1 million contract. Oklahoma City picks up another second. Here's the one trade. It kind of caught me a little bit off guard because I thought and I said it on TV, I thought there were some tractions on a Jonas Valanciunas, Josef Nurkic trade in Phoenix. However, Sacramento comes in. They trade for Valanciunas, traded City Sadowski, who they just acquired. Yes, you were allowed to trade him. Sacramento sends out 2 seconds, the 2028 Denver second, and their own second in 2029. Valanciunas goes into, you can acquire a player using the non-tax mid-level exception. We just said that. $9.9 million next year, 10 and change next year, and then a non-guaranteed contract in the third year. Sac is $2.5 million below the luxury tax. Gives Washington some more flexibility to go out and certainly make a trade because of the flexibility there. So if Washington would have done the Nurkic trade, it would have added certainly next year's salary, $18 million and change. Here you get 2 seconds instead of maybe a late first. All in all, a good trade. Now we get Valanciunas with some bonus in Sacramento. Pretty interesting. So here's your haul in Sacramento. You get Zach LaVine, you get Valanciunas, you get 2 firsts and 3 seconds. It's pretty good for De'Aaron Fox, who had a terrific night in San Antonio, 24 and 13. Chicago signs Lonzo Ball, certainly a name that we had circled maybe on the trade front. I would keep an eye on when we get this Lonzo Ball contract. I am sure it is going to have an Exhibit 3 in it. And what is an Exhibit 3? It's a prior injury exclusion where it protects the organization. Jonathan Isaac has that in his contract. If a player has a reoccurring injury, you basically have to designate a body part. So you could say if let's say it's $10 million per year, Ball is going to get that. However, if he suffers an injury let's say to his knee, then Chicago would have the right to waive him. I would be stunned if there's not an Exhibit 3 in this extension here. 2 for 20 for Lonzo Ball to Chicago. And now the Whopper. Thank goodness. As I put the smoke up, I think I probably put the wrong smoke. It'd probably be white smoke. The Jimmy Butler situation in Miami is over. 2 months, that has taken a lot off our lives. Everyone, we do not have to worry about Jimmy Butler getting suspended. Where's he going? He has been traded to the Golden State Warriors as part of a 4-team trade that sends Jimmy Butler, who eventually will sign an extension, for $111 million. That would start in 2000. Basically, it's technically like $60 million in new money because his player option is being eliminated, and now we're attaching 2 years at 54 and 56.8. I'll talk about the impact there in a minute. You are allowed to extend There's no 6-month restriction. 6-month restriction is based on how much you can give a player, the amount in an extension here. So he extends for 211. Miami gets Andrew Wiggins, who's got 3 years left on his contract. Pretty decent number, 26 and change. Last year's 30 million player option. Kyle Anderson, who's got this year, next, 8 and change. Last year is non-guaranteed. PJ Tucker, that's from Utah. He's on an expiring contract, and you get a 2025 top 10 protected first, which certainly could convey this year. If it doesn't convey this year, it's top 10 protected next year. In Miami now, you have two first-round picks you can trade. The Jazz received Dennis Schroeder, who's on an expiring contract. The Pistons received Josh Richardson, Lindy Waters, and a second. So all in all, the impact, let's look at it from the Heat's perspective. Originally, it was reported that Kyle Anderson was going to Toronto. That would have put the Heat under the luxury tax. It would have put them under the second apron. Miami is still in the luxury tax. They are still in the first apron. But basically, all in all, for next year, they save roughly $20 million. It gives them flexibility in the next offseason. It gives them flexibility in the summer of 2026. 15 players under contract. In the big picture of everything, and listen, there was a part of me on Wednesday when we were doing TV and I was up on the touchscreen. There was a part of me that I thought that there was a chance that that Miami was going to get Kevin Durant. And certainly there had to be. I love Kevin Durant. I think he's a heck of a player. I wasn't thrilled if you had to give up the farm to get him. What's the farm? 2 first, all your young kids. Certainly we would have to figure it out how it would be apron rules. And I'm not saying that's where the conversations were. But I would have been a little bit nervous, and then you had to extend Kevin Durant this offseason for 2 more years. All in all, it worked out to the best it could in Miami, where you get Wiggins, you get Anderson, and you get Tucker. And we'll see where this Heat team goes. They just had a nice win on the road in Philadelphia. For Golden State, all right, so there's some work to be done. You extend Jimmy Butler. It's a big number, man. 2 years, $111 million. Butler's going to be 36 in September. Butler, Curry, and Green will make up 83% of your payroll next year, as of today. You're $19 million below the luxury tax next year. You have to figure out what you're going to do with Jonathan Kuminga. You are $1.8 million below the first apron currently. That might go lower if Jimmy Butler does not waive his trade bonus, which is at $417,000. You have 11 players under contract. You have to go out and eventually fill out that roster, and you can do it. But you might be seeing some 10-day guys in the near future. You have basically 2 weeks to get to 14 players. You can sign 3 10-day players. If you time it right, or if you make maybe another trade, we still have some time. You can time it right and fill out your roster. The Warriors are smart. They've got smart cap guys. They'll be able to figure it out. How much does this change? The amazing thing is the teams that are in 8, 9, 10, 11, I guess, whether it be Sacramento, Golden State, Phoenix, Dallas, are all the teams that made the most trades. They're the only teams in the West who have made significant trades. It will be interesting to see what happens with this Golden State team when you have Butler, Curry, Green, Buddy Hield, Quentin Post. Kuminga's got to get back healthy. You still got Moody. You still have Gary Payton, Trace Jackson Davis, Kevon Looney. Does it move the needle? We're going to be in wait and see mode with this deal here. So that is it from Golden State's perspective. As I said, we'll see what happens with Dennis Schroeder in Utah. They can flip him again. Detroit uses their cap space on KJ Martin, Lindy Waters, and Josh Richardson. They pick up 3 seconds. We'll see who they have to waive. because they do have to clear a roster spot there. But that is all in all a whip around as far as around the NBA. I don't think I missed anything. If you go on Sports Business Classroom, you can download it's free, CBA 101 Edition 2. We also have we call it CBA Mastery Edition 2 as far as the class that we basically have created a curriculum on the CBA, basically books on tape. You can learn all about the CBA. There's a lot of great perks in there. You can go in there and peruse. We're going to make the I'm sorry, I'm getting tax numbers. We're going to make so I keep this running diary. It's like CBA transaction. It's been since mid December that it has the transactions, and then basically it has how it impacts the CBA. How do we apply the trade rules? All different kind of nuances of there. We're going to make that available free on Monday. I'll tweet it out as far as where you can go find that. I thought it would be something neat if you're trying to figure out how did this trade work? How did that trade work? And it kind of gives you it gives you all the language that how trades work. I think it's a neat exercise to go through. That is it for today, which is Wednesday. We will talk soon. We will talk soon. We will talk Thursday, 1 to 5 Eastern, trade deadline preview or deadline show, whatever it is called, on ESPN. Wanna try to boast at what I look like. How do I pull up long range? No, Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA on ESPN.